Okay, thank you very much for being here at this late hour. I'm J.J. Mirello, I'm a writer. And you know that I'm a writer because I got the single thing you need to be a writer. Great hair. Sometimes over the head. So, we are in the era of the lone book writer. Now you have platforms where you can publish everything, Kindle or Smashwords or many other. And it's a lonely world. You have to do everything by yourself, including the cover. Amish vampire kittens in space. I mean, pretty much, he checked all boxes, right? So they're Amish, they are kittens, and they pretty much are in space. So this is actually a fake cover. There are no kittens in space, but there are books that say Amish vampires in space, Amish zombies in space, and everything. And this is something you have to do. You have to write the cover, you have to edit, you have to do everything. Okay, sure. You have to run by yourself. You're the virtual machine that's running the book algorithm. I'm saying literature, but it could be any kind of book. It could be a technical book, it could be a novel, it could be a poetry, it could be short tales, sorry, whatever. So what you're doing is, when the book is not finished, you have to write. Then sometimes you check, sometimes you don't. Then you go back and write again, and sometimes you check if you... Then when everything is finished, you check again, because you have to check that everything is in there, so that you haven't made up one character or a finger in the third chapter, and then you just introduce him or her, and then leave it like there. Or there is one funny thing you need to do is when you do a dialogue, you have to check that every time someone talks, it's a different person, so that you don't have two times the same person in a row. So that's the kind of thing you do. That it's usually done by copy editors, but you have to do it by yourself. Then you have to format. Then you have to package. You have to put it in a package in some format that can be processed by the publishing platform. Eventually, you have to upload. Usually, there's no kind of API, and that's a problem. So that means that when you upload things, sometimes you run into problems, because I mean there are many different things that can go wrong. But it takes quite a while. So it takes probably 20 minutes to check your manuscript. And then eventually it's checked manually, and then you might run into more trouble. This is kind of difficult. So if you really want to do it, and you want to do it well, and you want to do it several times, you want to produce new editions from time to time, I mean, it takes quite a while. So I think that book realm is actually pretty similar to the developer world. So it's not that different. There are many things that are the same in creating books or in writing books, writing and creating and producing and everything, and also in the software development world. For instance, the manuscript is the source code. You don't deploy directly source code. You don't publish directly the manuscript. It has to run a series of things to do that kind of thing, right? Second thing is that spell check is like testing. That's like the minimum thing you have to do. You can't publish something if it's got some typos, which of course doesn't prevent lots of people from doing it, but it's something you have to do, right? And then you have to copy it, which is akin to debugging. That kind of thing, like someone who's a character from the Midwest has got to have a Midwest accent. Someone who is, I don't know, someone who is a cat has to act like a cat, things like that. And you see the guy up here, it's a really funny thing. So you have lots of fun copy editing. It's something that everyone hates to do, but you got to do it, because eventually you have to do something that has some quality. Then publishing is like releasing or deploying. You eventually have to produce something that can be sold in the platform. So it's like deploying, right? You have to do something that can be used. You have to create a product that can be used. Then it would be nice if it would be automated. Because right now, every step I have said, it's a manual step. Everything is manual. You have to run everything. You have to run the spell check. You have to do this, and you have to do that. But it would be nice. And that automation is what I call LitOps. It's what I have been doing in my books. By the way, I have one of my books here. I don't have it. But you can go and buy it in the Perl stand. It's a book about Perl 6. I've done this with almost every single book I have done. Perl, on Python, on novels, also some travel book, whatever. Then it's kind of literature as code, right? So it's kind of having same as DevOps is infrastructure as code, you have literature as code. And you have, the simile goes a long way. Because, in fact, Ada Lovelace at the beginning, what she said was that analytical engine might act upon other things besides numbers. What she's saying here basically is and one of her insights was that the analytical engine could be a universal computer, a universal machine, a machine that could do anything as long as you could represent it in some suitable way, some algebraic formulae or whatever. What I'm saying is that you can use computers to not only the whole process of producing the artifact that's going to be uploaded, but also to help you with the actual writing. Same as you do with software. I mean, you're writing software and you use some editor or some IDE or whatever, and you write a keyword, and then it completes a keyword for you. Just imagine you could do that with literature. I mean, think about writer's block. It just disappears. You click on a button and it finishes the sentence for you. It would be just amazing. And then, the manuscript is written in Markdown plus UTF-8. So that means that you have to turn the manuscript into something that's similar to a DOM, a document object model. Since it's Mark, I'm going to call it Markdom. This is St. Mark. In German, cathedral, you say Dom, so this is Markdom. And the worst joke you're going to hear today. Then debugging, you can do it in GitHub. All my books are on GitHub. So you go to my GitHub account, which is JJ, by the way. So I got it very early, so that's why I got 2 letters in GitHub. So you go there, and people can do pull requests, they can fork. In fact, they do. So I got one novel, and it's got like, I think, around 100 forks, different forks. My technical books have got also a good amount of forks. So you can create your own books. It's got a free license, of course. And debugging, remember, you have to do everything yourself. But you put everything in GitHub, and just in exactly the same way that if you were doing a JavaScript framework, you put it there and people do pull requests on you if you have some error or type or whatever. Which is, within our eyes, all typos are shallow. Second worst joke, right? And then, you can do continuous integration. Remember, you have to do a spell check. Every time you add something new, you have to do a spell check. That's something you can do with continuous integration. In fact, this is what got everything started. At the beginning, I said I wanted to do continuous integration. I wanted to learn Travis. I said, okay, why don't I do it with this thing I'm doing now, which is writing a novel? So I started to do continuous integration on the novel. I was doing a spell check, everything. I did it this way. So this is a Travis configuration. Basically, I'm doing it in Perl because I got a Perl module for continuous integration because Perl is a great language, long like Perl. And what it does is, biggest thing, it tests how many things you have. It's got very interesting side effects, which is counting the number of words you have so you can follow your progress. I mean, it's got all beautiful things. But basically what it does is it creates on the fly a test, right, which is just these few lines, and then it runs a check. At the end of the day, it says you passed 25,200 tests, you failed 2 tests. And those 2 tests are the words that are not yet on the dictionary or are just typos. So I do this routinely. So I got, all my novels have the Travis badge at the beginning saying Bill first or Bill. But also, you can check many other things. You can check vocabulary, entropy. So a rich novel must have a lot of entropy. Entropy is related to surprise. It's related to the information you convey. Literacy. So for instance, you can, if you want to do something at a certain level, you can have it check it, because there are algorithms that do that, the length of the phrases, or you don't want to use words. For instance, you write a book for children, you want to say fuck more than 3 or 4 times, maybe 5. So you count the number of times that you say a particular word. All kind of things. I mean, you can imagine all kind of things on your text, all kind of literary measures. And eventually you have to deploy. This is Richard Stallman, because it's nice to have Richard Stallman and Kitten on a talk, and he's actually deploying his book. You deploy your books, it means that you produce it, and you get to autograph it to people. It's book transpiling, because what you're doing is you are transpiling a language, which is Markdown, to another different language. Okay? Paper. You have to do it eventually on paper. Paper is hard. Paper is the Internet Explorer of the LitOps world. You have to do a lot of accommodation for paper. If you publish it in EPUB or in some ebook format, it's nice. You got flexible format. You can use all kind of UTF-8, or not only UTF-8, you can use fonts that actually support Unicode characters. When you go to the paper world, everything is hard. You have to check for the length of the lines. You need to take care of the font that actually has everything that you are saying in the book, and so on and so forth. I mean, that's not a problem if you're writing a novel. You don't have a character written in Etruscan or whatever, but if you're writing some technical book, you might want to have Unicode. And that's no API or SDK. So you have to do everything by yourself. So the only alternative is to go to Amazon KDP and say, okay, here's my manuscript, tell me what's wrong. But you're wasting time with that. LitOps is about not wasting time, it's about automating. This is Perl 6. Perl 6 is a very nice language. And this is actually the actual flow where I check whether the lines of code in my book are longer than a particular length. Because if they are longer, they're going to produce an error. So I do that in advance. This is something I check. It's a single sentence. So what it does is, it gets all the markdown, it extracts the code or of markdown, extracts the lines of the code, then it checks for length, everything. I mean, all this, you see. Perl 6, amazing. And then you have to do some other things. Like, for instance, ebook is hypertext. This is not hypertext. So what do you need to do? You need to convert those links into something else. This is another, because I was writing a book on Python, I said, okay, I'm going to do this in Python. I was writing the book on Perl 6, so I did it in Perl 6. Actually, I use Perl 6 for everything, but Python is there. What it does is to extract all the URLs and to turn it. So actually what I'm doing is I'm using the Google API to extract a short link, and then I transpile the original to the paper version with the short link. But I could do something else. The thing is, LitOps in the pre-alpha, so we are in the path. It's still a long way. The two-chain is yet to arrive. Right now, there are a few scripts that I'm doing. I mean, the concept is there, the insight is there. I think that lots of things can be done. But we need still to have a pretty complete SDK for publishing things that allows you to do things automatically, fast, to produce, to release early, to release often, and all that. But anyway, meanwhile, keep writing or coding. That's it. Thank you very much. Do you have time for questions? Or 2 minutes? Okay.
What is your GitHub page again?
JJ, double J. It's a J, another J. Any other question? Is a question up there? Or? Hey, please? Yeah, please do it. Repeat the question. Okay, I repeat the question. Okay.
How is it going to happen?
I mean, I got everything in the same repository, so all the checks and everything are in the same repository. Everything I do is with Travis. I created a Perl module, so I don't have to have the Perl module in the same repository, so it's downloaded from CPAN, which is the Perl repository in CPAN. Every time it's checked. So I pretty much try to package all the tools I have, put them up on the cloud or in GitHub or in some repository, so that it's pretty straightforward when you do it. You are right that it's very annoying, so that's how I do it from the get-go. So if you start from the very beginning, it's not so annoying because most words that are not there, you can get them. I also reuse dictionaries, particular dictionaries from one project to the next. So if I'm writing something about cloud, I use it for something else. If I'm writing something about Docker or whatever, and also other kind of dictionaries. I'm writing something about my city, Granada. So if I write something else, I will use the same thing. So you're right, it's annoying. I think it can get better, if you get used to it and do it from the beginning, from the very beginning, it's not a big deal. Thank you very much for the question.
Thanks.
Time's up. Thank you very much.
Muy buena.
Gracias.
Un regalito para los ponentes.
Muchísimas gracias. Anda.